The Proposal, A New Arrival, Dao Buddha, by Medusa DB Loveheart, Part 6. We have to make an active choice here. Choose to exist for eternity. If we choose to exist for eternity, we have to change our behavior today. Eternity is a long time, and to live as diverse life as possible throughout eternity, it needs responsibility taken now, today. We can't live like today only thinking of what will happen the next 5 years. We have to make a complete 180-degree turn in order to be on track with the vision of existing in eternity. We have to make a choice. We can actually make that choice today. We have to see the large picture and think generationally in eternity into infinity. We can't amend the parasite lifestyle anymore. We need to become the predator we truly are. We need our nature more than ever, and it's not in good health today. Eternity is a two-way lane, in the relation past and future speaking. Zero and eternity has the same value. Nothing is everything. Zero is symbolized with a closed circle and eternity with a closed lying down 8. Eternity is a concept of understanding when it comes to see its true nature in completeness. Nothing contains the untouchable and the usable. Your thought and your mind, love, your soul and your spirit, emotions, dreams and senses. Nothing is a dimension of its own, and it's a dimension to count on in the future. Our existence will always be relative in relation to the time we live in. Youth of today has a hard time to understand a life without internet and emails, what it was like when we didn't have mobile phones or faxes. Today we wake up and go to work or school depending on where we are in life. There was a time when the majority of us had to wake up and then go to hunt for the food and the water in order to make sure we would have enough food for today and tomorrow. Today we are so skilled at that, so we no longer need to have a big part of the population to go out and do that. Today a minority of us actually deals with managing food and other life supplies that we must have in order to exist. Today most people just trade money in order to get a meal and beverage each day, and that is more than 99.9% of the population that's not bothering about how to maintain and caretake animal life and nature. That's exactly how skilled we are at managing life supplies. The truth is in now time we are so skilled in producing and supplying everything we can create, so we are more and more reaching a point where the only way in order to gain more money out of it is by producing more consumers. And when we reach that point in any area, the ecosystem of economy is no longer a valid system. There is no more need left. Today, we chose to create items with lower qualities for the simple fact that we consume more of it. And why? To get more money, and that is a nice idea if you keep that fact alone. However, we have invented a stock market for successful companies, and today we have loads of major companies that spans all over the world. Now stocks are a more or less a fake money system that live a life of its own and basically ruins the ecosystem of economy today in one way. They don't go hand in hand, even though it's a very good try in order to stimulate finance. Truth is that no matter of size of company, you might as well choose to not enter the global stock market and still be worldwide. Today people do it of different reasons. Today we live in so different realities, it's amazing we all live on the very same planet. The world is empowered by a few people that owns the majority of business that's considered important today, and they are usually not the politicians. We all realize that the situation of unemployed people is a big issue, but no one is ready to face the fact that the ecosystem of finance that we have today are inadequate. Today we have needs of re-education 1 or maybe 2 more times in our entire lifetime. That's how fast things are changing today. Today it's quite unusual we see people that has been working 40 to 60 years of your own lifetime with one and the same thing. We have an average of 5 to 10 years at one and the same location. The ecosystem of education and ecosystem of finance doesn't even speak the same language as it is today, which is strange since most of the income and most of the financial support systems is based on us selling our own brains knowledges as services. The problem with having an ecosystem of finance that isn't synchronized with any other ecosystem, such as the educational, the opportunity of life, the home and life standards, is that we are not able to take the steps we probably would be able to take, and the less they are synchronized, the more destructive we become. Eventually, everything collapses and civil wars as well as great and bloody revolutions eventually takes place. The less we understand each other, and the less we are able to see life as a picture in completeness in all its incompleteness, the worse the climate of civilization becomes. Today we realize more and more that life is just as much an opportunity for us all, no matter color of our skin, our sex, or how advanced we are in erotically skill sets. We have reached a point where a mail of information can't travel much faster than it does in order to make a huge difference. The human will always be that base factor of how fast the composing of information is done. Electronically, we already have reached states where the processing of everyday life routines when it comes to information technology are maximized. We are still developing it because we are created that way. We always strive for new goals. Some people are afraid of evolution and strives to slow things down, which is also a choice of direction. Here, time is always taking a tiny step forward no matter what direction we chose to head into. Evolution will always move no matter the choices made by the human race. Today, we are so skilled in management that we are able to see that healthcare, such as hospitals, and structure of enforcement in the purpose of the people's safety, such as police and fire department, are not just things we need, but also a right to have. That's how advanced we are. We have social systems in place in many countries that helps us support our possibilities and maintenance of our lives throughout life. However, how good that might sound, the systems for today that we have in place can all be done much better. We all realize the benefits of peace, as well as the cost of destruction of war. However, we seem to have a hard time realizing that rather than to choose to put our God, money, into the art of destruction, we can actually put equal amount of money into infrastructure. And money isn't really a problem because no matter where we are in the world, we always have money to create war and educate ourselves in massive destructions. Each war doesn't only cost humongous sums of money to maintain and to produce weapons of all kinds, not to mention all the massive amount of money put into foundings of research for new weapon technology. Then after the war is done, there is even more money needed in order to rebuild the infrastructure that has been destroyed against people's will. This choice, to direct our money on our future evolution rather than war, will bring us all together, and we will all have to realize that we are all in the same ship. This time the ship is planet Earth and all life upon it. We are talking about a united world here, and the truth is we won't need to focus our efforts and resources in mass destruction. We have already proved well enough that we know how to end life in more ways than many of us finds interesting. We know we can wipe out all life in a single third world war without any problems. There is no need to prove that part. We are standing before the most serious attempt to bring us all together and the task for us to wake up and realize the pure truth. We are all part of the very same opportunity of life on the very same planet. In this area of universe, are part of universe. So far at least. We don't need more advanced ways in how to end life. We need to change the direction of that lust into our everyday life reality, and start using the same amount of time and effort into making this world just not a great place to be at, but also the best opportunity of life there has ever been in time-space. The more we care about ourself and our future, the more we care and understand that we are just as much alive no matter if we are young, adult, or old, and that we will all go through each stage since it's a natural part for us all. The more effort we put into understanding each other and how different we all are seeing possibilities rather than problems, the more we will gain in life quality. I am all the time assuming that it's done with great responsibility and great deal of common senses. When I say we need to be smart, we really do need to be smart. We love competition. We love great challenges. We love to seek out thrills in our life, and trust me, a future as this one will offer you all that, and so much more. Only then we will be competing in what domain/continent will be providing the best solutions with criterias that must meet a civilization on an entire planet rather than a single country. We will need to continue to evolve information technology as well as all the other ecosystems we have. And we are actually only talking about a patch or an update to already existing structure and social behavior maps. That's what evolutionary steps will be like in the future, patches and updates. We will get a new structure for future evolution where we apply the patches or updates within certain time periods, and they will reoccur every 4th or 8 year or so. Today we have about 195 different countries. Each country's mother tongue is alive just like everything else. The same language varies a lot, not just in dialects but also over time. If you look closer, you'll see that in every country the people from different regions like the north and the south point of each country probably would have a hard time to understand each other if they talk their native dialect, even though they both speak the same language. Today we have hard time understanding our own language 200 years ago. It's even counted as a skill set. The only thing that remains throughout time is exist, relativity, and change. Everything else decay and reforms. The financial cost of this change is large, or small depending on how you chose to see it. It will be a financial cost, but for whom is it? It's for ourselves. This time it is for the entire planet. Governments have wasted money on far worse ideas than this, so if it will be a cost or an investment, that's a good question. It's a huge opportunity for infrastructure and possibilities. I assume we have to watch the scale and see which one weights the most here. Even though I'm sure that money-wise it will hardly be considered a burden, since we all will benefit and be a part of the very same change. I will leave the financial for now. The problems we are facing here is not like when we figured out how to create fire by hands with hardly any knowledge base of how to do it. We don't need to figure out how to, from a weaker tool master and manage metals. What we are facing here is for sure a change, and a big one of its kin. The difference here is that we have already mastered to create several different financially ecosystem that coexist within one major financially ecosystem. Every country already has a system. We have already made merges of economy. We also stand before a fact that no matter if we have it or not, all we will need is a mutual system when it comes to social and population services. For the first time, we will have a foundation that we all understand mutually, and for the first time, we will all be countrymen with each other no matter color of skin, sexual orientation, preferable or ethnics. Brothers and sisters. For the first time, we will be able to understand our differences and to see each other with same concept of understanding. This time we have already gained the base knowledge for what's about to come. This milestone in our own evolutionary timeline will not be about technical invention or a breakthrough. This will be the biggest social and mental update throughout history. This time we already have everything in place, or at least the know-hows in order to make it real. This update issues are mainly mentalities and the greatest and most advanced mathematical equation ever made. Our very own knowledge and understanding of ourself and the complexity we possess with all its beauty. This update is about seeing the reality as it is, accepting the truth. This time, it is time for us all to wake up and see the opportunity of life as it really is. We are taking another step. We will need to understand everything about us and our history. Some of the facts we have today will be passed on to history, and others will be revealed, and all of them will be maintained. We shall never forget what things has been like without the respect to our constant raising awareness. Total awareness, that's one of our next goals after the merger, if not before that is. This will be the first time throughout our very own evolutionary timeline when we chose to have total control over our own evolutionary future, over life, over everything. This will be the first time we will be able to direct our own future in the very best way, step by step, and always manage to take many steps enough in order to reach the goals we are setting up ourselves. No matter if it's history or now time, both are just as much part of our very own evolution. We live in a time when we can spread and communicate information faster than ever. We can all participate in what's going on with internet, TV, and radio. We already have educational system in place. School is nothing new to us. Fact is, no matter where we are today, big parts of this world is connected and updated with information daily. We have computers at home, at work, and in school, and we wouldn't have a problem in making sure that countries that doesn't have it can at least get access to enough of it in order to get things started, even if the goal is to make sure we all are connected. Another sensitive topic is drugs. We live in a world full of drugs, and people just love to use them. When talking about drugs, it's important to keep them all for what it is, and that's drugs. The world is full of people using drugs every day. What people do as a mistake is they think, because it's legal, it is not a drug, and that is a big lie. Alcohol is a drug and tobacco are a drug. Tea and coffee are the weakest and most harmless ones, but they are also categorized as drugs, a drug that next to another one that is more dangerous and has an addiction factor opposed to cannabis is alcohol. Cannabis has caused more peace to this world than any other chemical or university has ever done. A more peaceful state of mind is hard to reach. And this extraordinary plant that some countries are equalizing with terrorism. They close their eyes for the truth and says that if alcohol was invented today, it would never been tolerated. The hypocrisy in this is cannabis has never been invented. It's a part of our nature. Throughout our evolutionary timeline, we have always utilized drugs of different kinds, and cannabis is one of them. Yes, just like anything else, it can be misused, but looking at statistics from the country that has actually let people have the choice of what type of buzz they like to get has proven the rest of the world wrong in their assumption. Countries that have chosen to criminalize it have no idea of what it's like to live in a society where it's a valid choice. They lie to the people and claim it's the source of crime and a gateway drug, which is only true as long as it's categorized as illegal. You don't become criminal by going to the store and buying a bottle of wine, do you? Nor when you want to buy a six-pack of bears. And why is that? Because the one selling it doesn't also have a stash of other illegal character. To claim that the drug cannabis is leading to criminal behavior is to lie the people right up in their face. It's happening when you keep it illegal, and even then it's only a partially truth. When you use cannabis, you don't become a criminal. However, there are people that has used it and then tried harder drugs since it wasn't as bad as they claimed in countries where it's illegal. And since it really is a lie, and since the drug does exist, and people does try it, they realize that these sayings are so full of crap, so why would the rest of them be true? In that way, causing people to try harder drugs that actually are more dangerous. Lies always punish themselves in one way or another. Cannabis, when held legal, does not lead to crime, nor does the majority of cannabis users become criminals. Cannabis is a drug, for sure. So, it too needs to be treated with respect and proper manner. It can be misused like everything else can. Statistically, it's far less dangerous than alcohol is, even less dangerous than tobacco, and as long as alcohol is a legit choice, so should cannabis be. Alcohol is by far a worse drug for people. People can reach states of mind where they start to beat and abuse each other under the influence of alcohol, even kill others as well as raping others. All this can happen due to the way of the drug is interacting chemically with your brain. Alcohol does lead to criminal behavior in that manner. Cannabis, that has a completely different character when it comes to the form of buzz, doesn't provide you anywhere near that destructive and abusive behavior. All drugs have some level of destructiveness towards the user of it. So does cannabis as well, just like alcohol. So does even other things in life that you don't even choose to use, such as gasoline and gas formed from cars that everybody is forced to breathe no matter they want it or not. And same goes for factories and construction sites that provides us with different form of fumes, gases, and dust in different unhealthy forms. Cannabis is a product of nature that hasn't been developed by a manufacturer. The problem with all the lies around that plant resides in many factors. Holland has proven the world for many years now that you can have it as a legit choice of drug in a perfectly safe and healthy society. We have oil companies that isn't too happy about that. Any country in the world that has farmers can actually replace their fuel with a more ecological and more healthy type of fuel than their oil. So, hemp oil isn't popular choice here. Today we are more concerned about the environment than ever, and yet we lack the ability to see truth as it is. Then we have the medical companies that doesn't like the medical abilities that can be resourced from the very same plant. And why is that? Well, since cannabis is a plant, no one will be able to get patents on it nor royalties or any such things. No one will be able to rule out the world and monopoly the way it is today. This plant alone contains enough resources that the superpowers of today would actually have to become nice hosts of this world, rather than by greed suck people out on what they believe is God. Money. Which means if it was legal, every country could actually make sure they could provide both cloths and nature-friendly fuels for both energy and transportation. This plant could actually help out in large areas over time with bad soil to become better. And the sad truth is that there are great medical potencies within this very plant depending on how it's used and utilized. The US government used to say and fart at the world by claiming that there have been no new discoveries from that plant since 1893. The reason they say that is because that's the very same year they decided to claim that cannabis is evil, bad, and so on, without actually taking in consideration that cannabis is also the same plant as hemp that most of the world actually used for cloth production, fuels, and medicine. That's how dangerous it is to let ignorance and greed of power go before facts, the ability of responsibility and science. The US has changed a lot, and now even have it as a legal option in some of the states. The world is changing. Holland has already proven the rest of the world wrong when it comes to being able to have legitimate solutions and access to this very same plant. Even though that's the result of what they accomplish, people are so mentally afraid to admit their mistakes. Holland didn't do it because of the reason to prove the world wrong, but that doesn't take away the fact that that's exactly what they have done. Again, People's obsessed ideas trying to claim that the fact doesn't exist because that wasn't the intention of it. Where is the reason in that? The fact does exist and will remain a punch in the face on all suckers that hasn't gotten the maturity to accept they are just as human as the rest of the world. The fact doesn't go away just because people are afraid to admit that they are wrong. The only reason someone is moving on to heavy drugs is because when this drug is sold illegal, there is no other sense behind it than the ones created by criminals. Once you are outside the law, you will have access to everything else there is to it as well, which doesn't happen when you can buy it in a legal form. See the truth as it is and not as you think it is. The staff in liquor stores doesn't try to sell you an AK-47, they don't try to sell you heroin claiming that all drugs are exactly the same, only this is better. That's the way an illegal drug dealer can make more money. You don't walk into a liquor store buying a bear, and when you walk out of the store you just happen to buy a deadly virus or a weapon of mass destruction and are now programmed to destroy the world. Truth is you don't even become a shoplifter when buying the drug alcohol. You don't become criminal at all by that event even if you repeat it several times, year after year after year. Same thing goes for cannabis and coffee shops. Just like there is ways to actually consume and enjoy alcohol, just like there is ways to use fire inside a house on candles, just like there is ways to drive cars and other vehicles, just like there is ways to use dynamite or oil drills, cannabis can also be used. However, criminalized it lacks the basic mentalities around it since people rather chose to believe that once you try it will be the end of your world. Since that's not the truth, and the people trying to claim that that's the way it is will always be nothing more than liars. It's like saying that scouts are nothing but professional trained terrorists because they learn how to survive in the nature without any of today's luxuries such as water from a tap, toilets, ready-made food. They are training in how to tie people up with simple ropes, making advanced knots that makes the ropes into lethal weapons. They learn how to master the knife and becomes beasts of nature, dangerous killing machines ready to destroy the world at any second now. But that isn't really what they are doing, is it? Isn't it so that they learn responsibilities and survival skills based on only ourself? If we really want to control a situation, we must understand as much as possible around that situation. Drugs exist and will always exist. To believe differently when there is nearly 7 billion people on one and the same planet is more dangerous than to accept that fact. We must be able to talk, read, and discuss even sensitive topics, even ones such as drugs. Freedom of speech will always be a cornerstone in a healthy society. It's a part of our reality, and it has always been that. Throughout history, we have always mastered difficulties by understanding its full potential and by learning respect and manner for what kind of behaviors that can be expected if not treated carefully enough. That's how we overcome problems. By knowing the ways and how to use things. Cannabis is different in its buzz, yes, but not more dangerous nor worse. That's two separate facts and have nothing to do with each other. Holland isn't the only country that has a more mature relation towards cannabis as a drug. Many other countries also have a more mature, down-to-earth and realistic understanding of what that plant and drug use of matter is about. If you talk to the police in Holland, they have more fear for a person under the influence of alcohol than a person under the influence of cannabis. Cannabis has a longer time range though before it completely is flushed out of the human system and is well connected to human fat tissue. Alcohol might get out of the system faster, but it is still causing damage to brain and liver in quite bad ways. Alcohol kills cells in the human body, whereas cannabis binds itself to fat tissue. There is a huge difference there. Countries should look at Holland and see how they solved it with their coffee shops and smart shops. You should always respect the laws of the country you live in. When talking about drugs, I'd like to keep them all as drugs without today's boundaries of legal and not legal. In this way, we can keep each drug for what they truly are rather than a huge area of gray where all other drugs are the same, but alcohol. Why then? Well, all drugs are different in their behavior and should be respected thereafter. When putting a drug such as cannabis in the same area of other hard drugs isn't showing the right picture of the drug itself, and it's there many people fool themselves today. It's important to understand that each drug is unique in its behavior in all direction. All the things on the illegal side gets the same value of danger, and that's not the way it is at all. When you put it as illegal, it all of a sudden has the same value as harder drugs, and that is being used by the people selling drugs today, hence leading to use of harder drugs is an easy step to make. Cannabis is a soft drug less harmful than alcohol. Alcohol is the hardest soft drug we have. According to research made by England's government a couple of years ago, cannabis isn't even close as dangerous as alcohol is. LSD was even less dangerous when it comes to use of it. Why is it illegal then? Well, taboo and the power of ignorance, I'd say. Alcohol is just as much a drug as cannabis is, and more addictive as well. Humans tend to drink alcohol throughout their entire adult life, and it's still called use of it. The same goes for cannabis, and it's a use of it. When made criminalized, it loses all its sense, morale, and culture behind it that is necessary for any drug in order to be used healthy. Cannabis has a rich culture, and the use of it has its own guidelines and healthy mentalities behind it that gets lost when it becomes put on the other side of the table of lawful. When I lived in Holland, I tried out both their coffee shops and smart shops. Cannabis has, just like wines, different tastes and origins with different buzzes and feelings. You have the cannabis cup, among others, that's a competition between brands of cannabis and what kind of behavioral patterns and the buzz and flavors they succeed in breeding. There are breeds from all over the world that has its own unique flavor and buzz. When used, there is two main directions of the buzz. One is stone that goes onto the entire body, making a comfortable heavy effect that's very nice for you to experience, and then there is high that goes more to the head and is also a very nice experience. The buzz itself heightens your senses to an equal sense of your eyes. It means your ears and nose and tongue all of a sudden are equal to your eyes. Listening to music gets a new dimension, as well as eating and drinking reaches new highs of its own. The buzz differs from alcohol in that way a lot, and is a unique form of buzz you don't get from any other drug. Having sex while on a buzz from cannabis is a completely new dimension of experience for you. It is so much better an experience it's hard to explain without having been there yourself. When you get an orgasm, it holds on in that state of climax till the buzz wears off. It's amazing how good you feel when having a lasting experience of an orgasm for hours. The sex itself lasts much longer when under influence of the cannabis. Better sex medicine is hard to find these days. Compared to alcohol, cannabis is a much healthier drug to use and has far more positive effects than alcohol ever could dream of comparing itself with. Best part is you don't have to be able to smoke it, since you can eat the cannabis in so-called space cakes, and the buzz lasts longer from the space cake. You can bake them yourself, and there is lots of recipes on the internet for that purpose. Smart shops have their mushrooms and other health substances that they sell. Mushrooms are harder to use than cannabis is, and should be dealt with in a delicate manner, since it's vital for the buzzes to be in harmony for you. Mushrooms deals with separate senses rather than all of them, and are perfect for exploring yourself for higher understanding. You should always experience mushrooms in peace and quiet places, so its harmonies don't confuse you. When exploring your senses like this, you must always understand that it always has its own time and place to be done in harmony. The UK government commissioned psychopharmacologist Professor David Nutt and his colleagues to rank drugs according to their danger. The list was published in The Guardian and is here reproduced with their consent. The drugs were ranked by ratings, which took into account a combination of their physical damage, social harm, and addictive properties. They are listed in descending order from the most harmful. 1. Heroin, highly addictive opium derivative. 2. Cocaine, stimulant which can increase the risks of heart attack or stroke in users. 3. Barbiturates, synthetic sedatives used for anesthetic purposes. 4. Street methadone, a synthetic opioid commonly used as a substitute for treating heroin patients. 5. Alcohol, medical profession increasingly concerned about damaging effects of alcohol. 6. Ketamine, a hallucinogenic sometimes used as a dance drug by clubbers. 7. Benzodiazepines, hypnotic relaxant used to treat anxiety and insomnia. Prolonged use leads to addiction. 8. Amphetamines, psychostimulant that combats fatigue and hunger. 9. Tobacco, highly addictive due to its nicotine content. 10. Buprenorphine, opiate used for pain control, also sometimes used as a substitute to wean addicts off heroin. 11. Cannabis, psychoactive drug, stronger forms known colloquially as skunk. 12. Solvent S, users inhale solvents to produce a sense of intoxication, usually abused by teenagers. 13. 4-MTA, Class A, originally designed for laboratory research, releases serotonin in the body. 14. LSD, hallucinogenic drug synthesized by German chemist in 1938. Its dangers have been disputed, 15. Methylphenidate, brand name of Ritalin, a psychostimulant sometimes used in the treatment of attention deficit disorders. 16. Anabolic steroids, used to develop muscles, notably in competitive sports. 17. GHB, a clear liquid dance drug said to induce euphoria, also described as a date rape drug. 18. Ecstasy, psychoactive dance drug which has been alleged to cause damage to the brain. 19. Alkyl nitrites, known as poppers. 20. Khat, psychoactive plant, produces mild psychological dependence. As you can see on the list, cannabis is even less dangerous than tobacco and should be treated that way as well by law enforcement. Cannabis should be as legal as alcohol is because it's a very peaceful drug and possess no threat to the human being, and we should have the right to choose our own buzzes. I might have romanticized the drugs here, but that's not the purpose, but rather to show you the differences of buzz and experience of the drugs alcohol and cannabis. As long as there are legal drugs on the market, the discussion should be open about which ones we should be able to use. The two legal drugs of today on the market is tobacco and alcohol. Yes, they are as much drugs as cannabis are. It's basically impossible to overdose cannabis unlike alcohol. The purpose of this discussion is for you to see that drugs aren't what they seem to be when they become illegal. I recommend you wait with the experience of drugs till you're out of school since they distract your concentration, both alcohol and others. I didn't learn about cannabis till year 2007, so I waited long time before I tried it out. There is no need to rush the experience of drugs. They will be there when you get old enough. Adults love drugs in one way or another, and that's a fact. Sure, there are people that use no drugs at all, but they are a minority of today, and their choice is just as valid, not necessarily making them better persons though. We love stimulation of our chemical system, no matter what the favorite choice of drugs are. Alcohol just happens to the number one choice for many out of natural reasons, such as being legal for one reason. Drugs will always be, and that's something we can't close our eyes for. The war on drugs has cost billions of dollars in US alone and is a never-ending battle. Every country spends loads of money on the war on drugs. It's just a fact. It's better for a society to have a freedom of choice than to pretend it isn't there. Teaching responsibility before lying about what's dangerous and what's not. It is better to reflect a society on the base of facts and truth than to try to control the diverse flora of buzz choices. To put all drugs on one side of the fence is like asking for having trouble in society. People that for some reason ends up in trouble using soft drugs can easily be helped out of it, and it's almost non-existent in comparison to how damaged people get by alcohol. It's better and more economical to build up support systems for people that get on the bad side for some reason than to keep it illegal and hope for it to cease to exist. That will never happen. Making a new drug legal such as cannabis won't make everyone start using it. More likely 5 to 10% of the population will start using it legally. In Holland it's about 5% is using it. Drugs aren't part of the ism, but I recognize the nature of it and feel the importance of being able to talk and discuss about this nature as well. Drugs should be dealt with respect and understanding. Because of its nature, it belongs to the adult world and is something extra to life. Never use a drug as replacement of happiness or joy because that is something you achieve without it. Don't use drugs when you're down and out because it only makes it worse for you. Dare to be mature about drugs and to deal with them responsible. Alcohol is by far worse to deal with than cannabis in so many ways. Nevertheless, both should be dealt with in mature manners and respected as drugs as they both are. You should follow the laws in your country, meaning if it's illegal, don't use it there. If you want to try out cannabis, go to a place where it's not illegal and learn about it there. I don't use drugs today, but I'm happy I have that experience, so I know what I'm talking about. I learned to see beyond alcohol. That's a quite bad drug. I stopped drinking it at age of 25. I consider it a good experience, and today there is too many other options to satisfy my needs that drugs don't seem interesting enough for me. Things will very much be the same as today when it comes to everyday life. There will be differences though. We will all have a common foundation that we all are proud of. We will have for the first time an equal and more exact understanding of each other. We will appreciate each other's differences and show greater respect for each other. We are all equally different towards each other, and we are all the same in not just anatomy-wise, but in this opportunity of life. That's what being different means. We are all equal in our basic anatomy, but unique in soul and spirit. And the most ironic part in all this is that we all, the human species, is among the smallest minority in the whole universe. We are the smallest minority in relation to time of existence in this part of universe at least. We are the only species that so far have this type of unique skill sets and anatomic abilities. We too will change shape, form, and functionality. We are the most flexible and adaptable creature in our system, except for the cockroaches, but I don't compare us to them even though they have very interesting formula of existence. Don't forget that we are all equal part of life. Even compared to the other animals in nature, we all contain information about features and possibilities here in life. Together, we become the perfect solution of life. We can all communicate in languages. Cats, dogs, wild animals. Our guttural communication is just as impossible for us to picture that they can understand, and their advanced communication is way too hard for us to truly understand without observing them and learning to know them for a bit. All animals are equally equipped with heart and soul and are just as much a big and important part of our opportunity in life. Nature is just fine without human beings. And universe couldn't care less if there is life upon this planet or not. We just need to look at our neighbor planet to see what things will be like here if we don't choose to care. We are the ones that truly depends on our nature and our ecosystem in order to continue to exist. In the long run, we will be the ones that know how to and do take care of the opportunity of life. We will become quite great at it as well. Fact is, we will become so great in it, so that when we stumble upon the first proof of intelligent civilization, we too will require that they first must be able to prove to the universe that they can be responsible enough and bring life further before we acknowledge our presence. Hence the reason we will also need to continue our military training. In a more predator matter of training, our military should always be of elite force in order for us to be able to stand up when encountering problems from either outer space, or when we need to make advanced experiments that includes high risks and danger. We will probably need to run some experiments on dead planets in order to provide maximal security. The day we meet hostile life forms of great danger, we will most likely be extremely advanced in our technology, as well as highly skilled, and not only aware but masters an opportunity of life. If they suddenly find us first at this time, we will for sure not have much to put against them. Even though I'm sure it would bring us even closer to each other if we actually managed to do that, which will happen only not yet for quite some time. We have an eternity to take in consideration, and the chances of us being alone are quite slim with that base. I have in my inner journeys in space stumbled upon alien civilizations or life forms from former civilizations and harmonized with their energies. I even achieved a reincarnation from one of those shards. In the form of universal death codes that I have achieved during my inner journeys. I have padded the domain of death for quite a while now. The domain of death is a peaceful place to wander. You find it full of respect and gracefulness, even lovingly. Lots of my progress in my reincarnations and incarnations has been padded there, since they are all ancient in one way or another. I have had several so-called near-death experiences in my lifetime. 2 of them was from chemical lung infections I had as a fire artist in my youth. Happened to swallow the fluids for fire breathing into my lungs, and that's a bad state of being. I'm fine though and survived them both. It's not scary with near-death at all. It's peaceful and quiet. My first reincarnation is Gizmo Strangelove, the last warlock, and he comes from domain of death and is the foundation of me. I started pathing Gizmo Strangelove at the age of 7 and have been doing that ever since. The others have been pathed along the way and have grown into me with thoroughly pathing and devotion. Today Medusa Loveheart is my alter ego and my picture of completeness along with my other reincarnations. My alter ego is shifting with me in my intergender and motion existence. 2 females and 1 male reincarnations in this entity, and a male manifestation with loads of incarnated blueprints and gray prints. I today have several cores in my soul and spirit. I even met my father once while achieving that in domain of death. I had to path it in order to reach him. It was a wonderful moment for me to finally meet him and see that everything was all right. My father passed away when I was 15 years old. We had a great moment together and laughed heartily with each other for a long time. Gray prints are partial incarnation patterns and blueprints are complete incarnation patterns built up from a set of gray prints. The pattern can be anything from a specific skill to a trait, and it doesn't need to be in relation to each other. It all falls in place one step at a time. It takes time to complete them, and the pathing of them occurs over long time periods. To journey in metaverse is a skill I had for a long time. My father had it as well. To be able to leave your body and journey in space or death, or whatever nature you wish to journey is a wonderful experience. It takes time to accomplish and shouldn't been taken lightly since there is a possibility to get lost. Might sound scary, but it isn't. You have to be able to let go of your earthly bindings and let your soul float away from your current state of being. Your conscious remains with the soul at all times, so you don't watch your soul float away, but you go with it. You are simply leaving your physics behind you and start journey in metaverse in a free form. You do this while meditating in the beginning. I can today activate myself in metaverse in a more normal state of mind. It has taken long time to reach that ability. I can today journey with open eyes. I don't know how hard this is to attain since I always been able to do it even if in more shy forms in the beginning. I know you can achieve this type of skill if you put effort and devotion into it. Just take it easy in the beginning. It's a wonderful experience and needs to be respected for its nature. Spell casting, curses, and blessings are quite common in metaverse. Myself is more of a protective spellcaster and have during my life compiled some quite heavy protection formulas for myself. I'm a bit different when it comes to meta practicing. I don't use ordinary tools, but all is done within the force with my bare hands, soul, and spirit. I have tried out several different crystal wands with energies of love and harmony, but I still work better with only myself as a tool. Tools enhances the energies and purposes of practice in a very efficient way. I, however, seem to be stronger without any tools at all. I try them out every now and then just to get familiar with them. When I summon forces of metaversical creatures, I use open hexagrams since I don't want to harness them but only learn about their nature. It usually results in a quite surprised creature since they are being used to be harnessed by other mortals. I do it all in metaverse without physical bindings. It's just as powerful as in physics. The presence is just as evident as when done in physics. Be careful with curses since they really work as long as you get them right. I have some in my protections as counter effect if negative energies are projected at me deliberately. It's very powerful and I have seen it work live, and it makes you think twice before you apply it onto something. My defense usually affects the senses by lowering them somewhat and can be reversed by positive actions. My defense is an advanced yin and yang formula that deals with most energies of today. I prefer blessings and sending energies of harmony, and today I'm quite skilled at that. I'm an excellent healer of myself. Haven't had that many opportunities to heal others yet. As you can see, I path many paths, and not only the warlock path. Warlocks has some traits. First, there is the hand flame. A metaversical hand flame that is personal to every warlock. Then we have the reflection in a metaverse mirror. They don't reflect us at all. There is only one mirror that can reflect a warlock, and it's the mirror of ultimate truth. Warlocks has a tendency to embrace death in a way many others find hard to understand. We like to reveal things, to uncover and unclothe the reality in one way or another, even things that might lead to devastation. I'm a quite different warlock since my nature is as the last warlock. I don't open gateways to the so-called hell, but I do travel there to seek wisdom and enlightenment. Isn't too much knowledge dangerous then? It can be, but the lack of it is even more dangerous. Some people may claim that if knowledge is too easy to attain, then we would soon have everybody running around with a remote red button attached to their mobile phone, and it would be enough if only one of them decided to push the button and end it all. It would be a monstrous way to handle such a responsibility. It's supposed to be done with a safe and healthy control of information. But if you look from another direction, you will also see that without complete awareness and ease of access to all kinds of knowledge, you will end up with a world like this. A world that has already pushed the red button, and no one doesn't even bother to understand that. The button we already pushed is that when many people enough doesn't give a damn about things such as garbage control, pollutions, extinguish rates, population issues, mentalities that rather stands up for total destruction and great failures of attempt to be recognized as brilliant or superior. Nuclear ways to mass destruction, biologically warfare arts in ways of total destruction, chemical warfare arts in total destruction. Truth is, to destroy this planet or the opportunity of life upon it is already happening. Just it's not fast enough for us to understand that we are already going downhill. We all know that Earth will explode in 4 billion years from now. We also know that this planet might be unusable long before that. We also know that for several thousands of years, we have never truly given peace a true chance. And maybe we have had very good reasons for this constant failure in behavior. This is the first time in our evolutionary timeline when we will be able to take control and stir this ship in any direction we would like for real. Today, we have a greater understanding of who we all are and why we are different than ever. We have never had more infrastructure in place, both virtually and physically. Looking at the world from a great distance, we can see that the truth is the world of today, this planet. Earth is today covered in a huge web covering the entire surface. It's a web net that consists of electronically cables, giving us tiny changes of active electrons in motion. And this is covering over the most part of our entire planet, and has not only done so for quite some time now, but also slowly growth or rapidly depending on what you chose to relate this event to. Slowly growing in both the air with all the wireless technology traveling between phones and satellites and portable computers as well as stationary computers. Our condition is constantly changing, and the possibility to the self-creating conscious is actually a possibility no matter how slim the chances have been and still are. Everything in the opportunity of existence contains energies out of many different forms. Most of it is so weak, we never truly reflect over it, but nevertheless lately growing with the new pace of development in the information technology area. We don't see any impact of the new web of energy that surrounds the planet. Not yet. Humans are a possibility for intelligence rather than humans are intelligent. There is a bloody huge difference there, even though the sentences are similar to each other. The brain is the most advanced processor there have ever been in our location in our evolutionary timeline. Billions of small cells that has weak electricity as an engine and DNA as its appearances and possibility factor. It's processing chemicals in both directions in order to maintain and become self-dependent in as many directions as possible. The brain creates emotional experiences that in a combined form of feelings and other impressions it collected from its surrounding in real time at all time, even as we sleep. When we sleep, our brain is calibrating and calculating the completeness of the impressions you have been able to produce as altogether outcomes from that period of time you have had as awake. It's a sort of hibernation mode computer uses in order to consume less energy. Only our hibernation is not just equally important for our energies in the means of how much energy and durability we need in awake time, but also to process and work with all possible impressionable equations that we rarely even reflect over in awake time. We are so advanced in our existing form of existence that life itself, our opportunity of life with all the existing dependencies that Mother Nature has already created the perfect algorithms of life in order to have a chance to maintain this opportunity. What we seem to lack in understanding is that Mother Nature herself is our own very engine for our very own reality and existence, and has been so for a couple of billion of years now. We aren't the first species Mother Nature has hosted. Truth is that every single unit of life in this opportunity of life has valuable knowledge hidden, and yet right there in front of us. This is knowledge we will need to understand in order to manage to take many steps enough in the best possible direction at all time. That will be an even more important future goal for us, even though today we already are quite good at it. I was very active in Metaverse before the Maya calendar ended, doing my part and contribution to everything so that nothing wouldn't end there. I visited a lot of white wolves and got their aid to provide this planet with an extra force field. I have blessed some churches for future faith there, so they can rest in their journey. I have visited many places here in Metaverse in order to both activate new forces and reactivate existing resting forces. I journeyed a lot and saw many different cultures. I did my part and are proud of my accomplishments. Today I have achieved a white wolf as a companion when exploring nature and its secrets. Composing this ism hasn't been done without friction. Many times have I been tested as Dao Buddha in Metaverse from both religions and isms as well as ancient forces. There has been a lot of holy tests for me, and I have so far passed them all. I have today a few, but very strong defenders of the ism in Metaverse. I have company from ancient forces that are with me at all times. It's a good path, and you prove to yourself that you truly believe in yourself. Sure, we have chosen horrible and terrible ways to utilize this might of awareness we all carry. Fact still remains we are already creating ourselves, and we are already professional definers. We have created so many defining stones by now, there isn't really much left for us to learn in the direction we seem to be stuck in when it comes to destructiveness in this opportunity of life in our part of universe. In order to believe that we will be able to define eternity from this single planet, you must never understand that where there is an end, there is always a start. Unfortunately, that's a misunderstanding many people actually live with. There will always be new ages and evolutionary progresses. Our only choice is if we want to be part of this opportunity or not. Because even if we do succeed in ruining this opportunity of life in our part of universe will still evolve, and will keep doing this even without us in it. And the next time that opportunity will happen, it doesn't really matter, since the only way they will find out about our existence in forms of archaeology on universal planetary, if any, is if they chose to make the choice we chose to fail in the opposite direction. In other words, no matter what their choice will be, everything we have done, everything you ever believed in, every step of evolution our species and our Mother Nature ever done will be for nothing. Which in a way is a weird choice. Truth is that the opportunity of life is as much ours as any other living aware matter or civilization out there in space. How much part of universe we actually can consider ours, no one can know for sure yet. Let's just hope that the next hostile threat of alien life forms is still too far away from us for them to find us. As long as this remains true, we are actually all quite fine for the moment, and we do have time to shape this world up. And that's actually all we need to concern about in order to change our future destiny from creating Armageddon and to become the ones that finally woke up, so that we all could see the truth as it is and start work in much healthier and much higher life quality direction while retaining the respect for the nature. To be the ones that chose peace over war and saw the power of diversity as a possibility instead of trouble. To have been the generation that has captured our senses and taken our entire planet civilization to its next level of being. It's time to see the reality in faith and science. When the religions were composed, science were shining in absence, and the need and hunger of understanding was a growing matter. Religions try to explain how it all started with the metaversical expressions of a God that created Earth. Today science has a better place and a great foundation. But even science has a hard time to explain how it all started, since they can't prove what was before their so-called Big Bang Theory. Truth is we don't know how it started yet, and truth is also that space has existed for eternity, no matter where in time we are. That's what exist represent, eternity into infinity. There might as well have been millions of opportunities of life in the eternity we all exist in. Science has, however, proven evolution as a part of our reality, and that's a comforting understanding. The progress of evolution is something we all can grasp and respect in our existence. Religions back then was replacing science with faith, and that's a sad fact we still have to deal with. Today the variables have changed, and it's time to see the truth as it is and let the past be the past. We can't hold on to values that isn't valid in our evolutionary timeline anymore. We have to see where we are and what's on the plate of understanding of today. It's time to let go of the past and to welcome the new era ahead of us. Religions will always be an important milestone in our evolution, but even they have a cycle of existence on their own. Science has today a great understanding about the nature of space, and that's enough for us to continue our quest to find out how things started. Religions has many beautiful facts about human beings and philosophical explanations, but they deny evolution and they deny the eternity we already exist in. We have to be able to see beyond our failure and explanations of how it all started. We have to be able to see the truth as it is, and to amend reality no matter how uncomfortable it is at the moment. The religions of today will always be maintained, but they too will pass on to past time and become a part of our history. Religions still have more to reveal and will last for a long time to come, only in a different form than today. They will pass on to mythology but still remain important. Sometime nature fails in its completeness, some by nature and some by accidents. All over the planet there are people with handicaps, some worse than others. We have people that are blind, deaf, and mute. People that are crippled with only one leg or no legs. People that suffer from cerebral palsy. All of these people are just as much human beings as you and I are. We are all equally equipped with heart and brain no matter fate in life. It's a diversity that might seem harsh, but it's still there, and we can't close our eyes for it. No matter what fate holds before you in life, we all deserve a good quality life on a day-to-day basis. The world is quite good on respecting handicaps today, and I'm proud of that, but it's important for people to understand that we are all human beings and should be respected thereafter. The people that are handicapped, no matter what handicap it is, lives their lives just as much as anyone else do. They too have their ups and downs. They too have the same flora of emotions as any other human being has. They should be respected as human beings and not as defected beings. Don't fear them because they don't usually feel sorry about themselves. They are proud people too. Don't mock them either. Their lifetime is just as rich of content as yours are. We are all equally different and an equal opportunity in life. Be humble before the diversity of Mother Nature. So, what about the phenomena prostitution then? What is it all about? What's the conclusion of to be or not to be? Well, let me answer the later question right away. It should be legal. Why, you may ask? Well, let's have a look upon it and see what it's about. It's the oldest profession there is here on Earth and has been around for over 2,000 years. In other words, it probably been dated as far back in time as the Stone Age. This is another situation where the matter is delicate and not so obvious to why it should be or not to be. We have both solutions in the world today. Countries that have it legal and countries that has it illegal. No matter solution, every country has prostitution in it. Hence a phenomenon that shows a failure of purpose of law. That shows that no matter what you chose, there will always be people willing to sell their body for money and earn their living that way. What people tend to forget in this question is that the people that choose this life, no matter reason, are personal beings. Just like you and me. Prostitutes have ordinary lives, paying bills and going on with their lives just like we do. Some of them are in that situation because they have no other choice. Others because they chose to get an extra income. No matter what, they all sell sex for money regardless of if it's legal or not. So, what happens when you chose to make it illegal? They end up on the wrong side of the fence, which is the last thing they need. They become even more handicapped and outlaws that has nowhere to turn anymore in order to make the necessary changes they should be able to need to do. Prostitutes becomes victims of law and order when they already are in a bad situation. And putting them in jail won't make the situation any better for them. It only makes it worse. Prostitutes have ended up there in one way or another regardless of the law, and would do it no matter what. Prostitutes are individuals with just as much heart and brain as everybody else, and the law should be there for them, not against them. As long as there is prostitution, there should be laws that supports it and make them part of society rather than outcasts that has nowhere else to turn but the criminal world. Prostitutes should have the police on their side, and the society should spend efforts in giving them opportunities to alternate work so they can choose to take different paths when they want to. A great country can have it legal and puts in support system that aids the ones that have nowhere else to turn in that line of business. To have it legal shows the country has a great understanding for its people and puts the individual first. It's a mature way for a country to handle prostitution as a legal option, since it is a fact that it exists no matter if it's legal or not, recognizing the truth of its present and choosing to take responsibility for it, rather than to take the easy way out and making it illegal. You can feel however you want in this matter. It won't take away the fact that prostitution will always exist and has always existed as far as human has. To cripple them like we do when we make it criminal is more evil than good to the individuals that are prostitutes. The law should always look after the individual at first. I understand that people are upset with this, but it will always be better to let prostitutes be a part of society and give them the opportunity to do something about it, rather than to kick on someone that's already lying on the floor. It's hard as it is to be a prostitute. They don't need the burden of being on the wrong side of the law. They need a country that succeeds better in taking its responsibility towards individuals that ends up on the wrong side of the fence. Another problem we have today is people's mentalities towards prostitution. It's mean and bad in most any direction. As if people didn't sell their bodies and brains for money already. We all sell ourselves for money today in one way or another. Prostitutes sell sex, that's the only difference here. Prostitutes sells orgasms, which in my opinion is a beautiful thing to sell, and they should be respected for it. The mentalities of today's normality norm is so bad that they are just as in much trouble because of that. They can't use it in a CV that they have been prostitutes, which is weird and sad. Prostitutes should be proud over it and respected just like anyone else. People can't see the human behind the prostitute, and that goes especially for them that are opposed to it and wants it illegal. Prostitutes shouldn't lose their dignity just because the profession is out of sexual nature. There is no point trying to force this profession in any direction but legal, since it will always be there no matter what. It is a phenomenon. The harder you try, the more it will go underground, but it will always be there. And it won't disappear just because you can't see it. Prostitutes are human beings and individuals just like anyone else and should be treated that way by its surrounding, and the laws need to reflect that in order for it to have a fair chance to come true. I'm not arguing about that there are big health issues with prostitutions, and neither do the prostitutes. They live with it every day and are well aware about the risks. However, that doesn't change the fact that there will always be prostitution no matter if it's legal or not. The reason it's a phenomenon is not only that it exists no matter choice of keeping it legal or not, but also the fact that it has always been around. Throughout history, prostitution has always existed and will always do so. There is no doubt that legal is the best way to coexist with prostitution. Space and universe are an amazing place, so vast and so gigantic it's hard to imagine the actual size of it. To journey into universe and metaverse is an amazing experience.